On Tuesday, April the 4th, Connick, the 12-week-old bald eagle, fell from his nest at our Captiva Eagle Cam. And this nest sits about 75 feet up in the air, which is a long way to fall. But thankfully, his wings worked well enough that he was able to soften his landing and not cause any long-term permanent damage that we know of. And I say his wings worked well enough because prior to this fall, we had some health concerns for Connick because he started dropping primary feathers, which is unheard of at 12 weeks of age. I've been in the wildlife field for over 10 years now, and I'm a certified wildlife rehabilitator. I've rehabilitated a lot of birds of prey, including eagles, and I'm a vet tech of 5 years. And I'd never seen or heard of this, so I started contacting veterinarians that I know and other experts in the field, and we started having a conversation, see what's going on, see if it ever happened, and nobody had ever heard of this. So when that first feather dropped, we weren't that concerned because, okay, it's a weird fluke. It falls straight out of the follicle. That's strange. Maybe that follicle was damaged. Okay, whatever. That second one dropped, and thankfully it was on the opposite wing, so he could stay symmetrical when he was flying. But that was also strange. We're like, something is going on. And when that third one fell, we're like, oh, yeah, no, something's definitely going on here. So I was making a video to talk to you guys. Well, it could be toxins, it could be birth defects, it could be malnutrition, it could be stress, but we can only speculate because we can't go up there and grab Connick and test him because we could end up causing him to fledge accidentally and break a wing, which is really bad because that puts him in the realm of candidate for euthanasia or to be an ambassador in captivity for the rest of his life, when really we just want him to be out in the wild and flying free. So thankfully, the rescue, him falling out of the nest and us rescue him, is really a blessing in disguise. And I say we loosely because I really didn't do anything. I'll be honest, I just made some calls and I talked to you guys and communicated what was going on. It was really SCCF and Crow who made this possible and made the rescue happen within under an hour, which is crazy. That is amazing. So if you don't know, SCCF is a conservation foundation that does a lot of research and wildlife work on the Sanibel Captiva Island specifically. I called up Audrey from there. Within 30 seconds of the call, she dispatched Jim, which Jim does a lot of work for SCCF and Crow for wildlife rescues. And Jim was about 15 to 20 minutes out. Well, I called up Lori, the landowner of the nest, and I was like, hey, can you get a neighbor to go keep an eye on Connick and make sure, A, no people bother him, no predators bother him, and also keep an eye on him in case he moves so Jim is not searching at night with a headlamp trying to find a bald eagle and make the rescue happen a lot faster. So thankfully, one of Lori's neighbors went over and was one that recorded this video of Jim making an excellent capture of Connick here, and then Jim was able to take Connick to Crow for stabilization and testing. And Crow the next day came out with a statement with what was going on, and I'm going to read that to you. It says, upon examination, our veterinarians noted the patient had a good body condition of 2.9 kilograms. By the way, side note, I think Connick's a male based off that size and how small he is. He's a nugget. So Florida bald eagles are pretty small in general compared to like northern bald eagles, but the males are generally 30% smaller than the females. I've never known a female to be this small, especially coming from Florida. But Crow says that Connick was moderately anemic and had evidence of 3 missing primary feathers with dried blood and loose primary feathers, 2 of them. Vets expressed concern for anticoagulant rodenticide poisoning given the observed anemia, which is a low red blood cell count, and started the patient on vitamin K supplementation as well as supportive fluids, vitamins, and nutritions. So how do rodenticides work and how do they get into the environment? Well, here's a great resource from the National Park Service. I'm going to read quickly to you, in summary, how anticoagulant rodenticides work. So they say our livers make a special enzyme that allows our bodies to recycle vitamin K. Remember the supplements that Connick's getting is vitamin K. Our bodies need vitamin K to make the clotting agents like platelets that protect us from bleeding too much. Anticoagulants stop this enzyme from doing its job. Our bodies store an extra supply, but if we're exposed to enough anticoagulant, the supply will run out and internal bleeding may begin. So it's not good. So that's why the vitamin K supplements are so important, that the body can start rebuilding the clotting factors. How the rodenticides get into the environment is the island is being overrun by rodents, so the pest control companies or homeowners are putting out rat poison. But I hope that to be unlikely because we have done a lot of campaigning on the island, talked to a lot of the pest control companies to stop using rodenticides because of the secondary poisonings to bald eagles. Like 2 years ago, Connie and Joe's eaglets died from rodenticides. So the island is aware of this. I think it's more likely that a hurricane stirred up rodenticides that were in the environment or other heavy metals or toxins and got into the food supply, or there's maybe one or two homeowners or pest control companies that happen to put out rodenticides, and the one or two rats that were fed a month and a half ago to Connick happen to have rodenticides, but we're just not sure. But what we do know is we do educate the island quite a bit. Crow has a great rodenticide task force that educates people on Sanibel and Captiva not to use rodenticides because it does affect other wildlife other than their targeted species. So it could just be rodenticides affecting Connick. It could be heavy metals. It could be other toxins that the hurricane stirred up. We don't know. Now, quickly, I want to mention a study that came out a while ago that showed that poisonings, secondary rodenticide poisonings in bald eagles is quite common. So this article headline is "Study Finds Rat Poison in Dead Eagles from Across the U.S." More than 82% of 133 eagles tested had so-called anticoagulant rodenticides in their bodies. Now, this is not saying, 82% of the bald eagle population has some levels of rodenticides in their bodies. That's not true. If we look at the study, it shows that these eagles that came in died from some unknown cause, and they were tested to see. How they tested them was taking biopsies of the liver. So we're not able to confirm Connick has rodenticide poisoning because we'd have to biopsy the liver, which we shouldn't do, don't want to do. But that it is a contributing factor for the bald eagles that die, that they do have some levels of this anticoagulant rodenticide in them and puts them at a disadvantage for surviving in the wild. So it is a common problem. It's not 82% of the population, but it's more common than we think. And in general, it's just not a Captiva Sanibel Island issue. It is a nationwide issue, or really around the world, that we are causing secondary poisonings. And it's not just rodenticides, it's heavy metals. It's just pollutants that we put out into our waters, into our land. I mean, DDT is a prime example of what can happen when humans put out toxins into the environment. So I'm gonna do a little bit of speculating here. I am an optimist. I think Connick is gonna recover just fine from the rodenticides and everything else. I'm optimistic of that. I could be wrong, but Crow is just excellent at what they do. But what's going to be the more difficult thing is Connick fledging, doing official flying and fledging, because he's missing quite a few primaries. Right now he's missing 3. Those 2 loose primary feathers, they could drop out, so he could be missing 5. That is rough on a bird that's trying to figure out how to fly. But with enough time in a flight run, he might be able to overcome this and work out how to fly. It's just going to be a lot more difficult for him. He's going to use more energy, which means that he needs to eat more when he's out in the wild to be able to fly and to hunt. And he's not going to be able to go out and learn how to hunt, because this is the time to learn to hunt, observe other bald eagles, maybe his parents hunting as well, to figure it out. So he's going to be at a disadvantage. But I think with enough practice in a flight run that he could overcome this. Some people are like, couldn't you just imp the feathers? I don't think that's possible. I've not heard of imping a feather inside of a follicle, or like transplanting a feather inside the follicle. Imping is where you take a donor feather and you insert it into the broken feather shaft, and that shaft is there, but it's still connected to the body. I just don't think implanting, I don't think it's possible. I don't think the body would uptake and hold that feather in the follicle. And it's going to take about a year, if not 2 years, for those feathers to grow back. And so Connick being in a flight run for that long might not be the best for him or possible. But that is not up to me. That's not my decision. We're going to rely on the experts from Crow and from Florida Fish and Wildlife to determine what's best for Connick, because they know the area the best. They know these eagles the best. They can figure out what's best for Connick. But I'm optimistic of Connick's recovery. It's just going to take a long time. He couldn't be at a better place to recover and give him the best chance of survival. But I could be wrong. Wildlife, they're very strange. One day they can be perfectly healthy, another day they can just pass away because they just mask and hide anything that's wrong because they don't want to show predators in the area that they're weak, because if they show weakness, then they're a target. So it's really difficult to gauge this. It's day by day. We'll see how it goes, but I'm just an optimist. I just like to think positive. But if you guys have any questions that I didn't answer, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll write back if I can. And if you're able to donate, Crow does have a fundraiser going right now on their Facebook page for Connick. This is almost at $3,000. A big thank you to Crow, to SCCF, to everybody involved, and to the viewers. Thank you guys for being so invested and loving these wildlife, being so passionate for them. And go tell people about rodenticides. Tell them not to use rodenticides. Use mechanical traps or other methods by talking to a pest control expert. But thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe. Hope the best for Connick.